And welcome to the latest installment of the After Party. It is your boy Jay Connor, and as always, each After Party episode is our reaction to or an opinion of major moments in pop culture, award shows, television events, book releases, albums, whatever the hell. But in this particular instance, there is no greater black-ass moment than the auspicious arrival of Marvel's Black Panther this past weekend. So joining me today to discuss this pivotal moment in Black history is none other than the Bronx's own resident womanist race nerd, T with Queen and J, and the triumphant return of scribe extraordinaire, Mr. Law Ware. Thank y'all for coming through.
Hey, it's Jay. Good to see everybody. Good to hear everybody.
Good to be here.
All right, now, before we get started, I love how this movie has brought us all together because on the Extraordinary Negroes social media accounts, this past weekend, I offered 2 tickets to anyone who was unable to visit Wakanda during opening weekend due to financial limitations. And much to my surprise, we had like a deluge of people that hit me up and said, yo, I got 2 tickets on it too. And because of that, we were able to send we were able to send over 60 people to go see the movie this past weekend. So
that's awesome.
Shout out to everybody.
That's what's up, man.
That's crazy, right?
Yo, that's what's up.
Shout out to everybody who came through and made those generous donations and allowed us all to share this moment together because this is definitely more than a movie. This is a moment. Now, before we dig into this movie, considering our expectations for this movie were stratospheric, did it meet your expectations?
Oh, man. Yes, it did. In fact, it exceeded my expectations in many areas. I think the filmmaking was amazing. Ryan Coogler is incredible with that camera. And so,
that nigga.
Yo, man, the way that camera moved and it was so fluid. Now, I have a few issues. I would have liked more Killmonger. I think at the end, it got a little cartoony with the final fight sequence. However, with those 2 very small nits, I'm not saying it was bad at all. Just I would have liked more. Yo, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Yeah, it absolutely met my expectations.
What about you, Jay?
I loved it. It touched me in places that I didn't think I was going to feel anything. You know what I'm saying? Like because it was produced and there were so many Black hands involved in it, it spoke to me in a way that even though I knew for a year and a half that I was going to see this Black ass film, it spoke to me in a way that I didn't know that voice was going to reach out to me. You know what I'm saying? It said a lot of Black ass things to me that I was like, oh shit, how did they know to tell me that? How did they know that I would feel this in this way? So that was fucking dope. It definitely exceeded my expectations. Yeah, it was amazing. It was everything that I wanted it to be. I would have definitely liked to see more of Nakia's backstory a little bit. And honestly, it could have been longer. Honestly, I could have done an extra. I feel like we could have gone with another 15 minutes to a half hour of it.
Really?
I think so. It was great. I liked it.
It's already 2 hours and 15 minutes. Wow.
All right. Well, I could have done with 15 more minutes. 2.5 hours. That's nothing for a Marvel movie. That's a drop in the bucket. You know what I'm saying? So another 15 minutes to like tell me more about Nakia's backstory. Even though I feel like all the characters were very well developed, just more about her motivation. That would have been good for me. But I loved it. Everything was great.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I think to your point, the word of the day is nuance. It was very apparent that this was created by Black people for Black people because there were certain things that were intrinsic to our experiences that we just knew that they were speaking to us. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I think it resonated with each and one of us, each and every one of us, even like visually, just how it presented itself. It was just like, if anything, to me, like, I was amazed by how Black it was. Like, I went into it knowing it was going to be a Black ass movie, but I didn't expect it to be so unapologetically Black to the point that it created like white discomfort. Like, I expected it to be like Black, but the degrees of Blackness that it went, I was like, holy shit, like this shit is super funny. Black. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny that our expectations that we live so much in a white supremacist, patriarchal, capitalistic society that like nothing horrible or incredibly offensive was said. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot of side eyeing the colonizer, which is totally appropriate. But for us to go in and be so shocked that they had the gall and the gumption to say the things that we all say in private. You know what I'm saying? Like, that just shows you how heavily the hand of the oppressor weighs on all of us, that we would be like, shit, they're doing this in a Marvel movie? Yeah, why shouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? You know what I'm saying? So it was definitely, none of us were expecting them to be as regularly, everyday, unapologetically Black as they were. And it was really, it was brilliant. And there's more ways to go with that. There's still more room to be even more, bodacious audacious with that shit. So it was great.
You know,
some more films.
You know, I think what's interesting to me is that Marvel understood that it's not enough to get a black filmmaker and to have him cater to us, but rather to get a black filmmaker and let him make a black film. And that's a difference.
Right.
Because you know, Marvel could have sent all these notes about what needed to happen, what needed to be different. But, you know, they allowed him to bring Killmonger in and allow Killmonger to kind of articulate what all of our drunk, Afrocentric, crazy uncles be saying, you know, and try to kind of actually actualize that. And I think that's really, really admirable.
They treated him. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I think it's admirable. I think it's part of what makes the film work, is that they allowed him to be black as opposed to allowing him to cater to blackness.
Right. And I don't want us to get started with giving cookies to things that should be the norm. So they treated him like you would treat a Marvel director. By the time you're directing a Marvel movie, you already somebody, or you should be somebody that the studio can trust. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who they can say, oh, you know what? We can trust you with this work. We can let you come in here and do your thing. Those are the best films where the director is able to like do his thing, where he understands and respects the character and goes in there and does it. So I agree that it's rare, but I don't want us to start handing out cookies to motherfuckers that should be treating us as human anyway. So it is dope that they treated him as a human ass, successful ass director. I don't know if I didn't see Fruitvale, but I know it was a great film.
Oh, yeah, solid film.
Yeah, and Creed was fucking amazing. So he has a track record of doing amazing shit. You know what I'm saying? So and he works well with Michael B. Jordan. So it's great that he was allowed to do his thing and that he wasn't met with a lot. It seems as if he wasn't met with a lot of the same challenges that black directors often face. Really, black people at any fucking job. You're trying to do your fucking job and somebody is like, oh, you're doing it too black, or this is not how we do things here, or whatever. So I agree with you that it's great that he was allowed the freedom to do his job. But again, that should be the norm, you know?
No, I agree. Well, I'm just commenting upon the fact that like Marvel has given notes to people like Edgar Wright, whenever he was making Ant-Man. It was like, yo, we need you to do something a little bit different, be less, Edward Wright-ish, and so I think that this shows that they understood that this is a guy who they should trust. They should allow him to kind of execute his vision. But no, I am not interested in giving, cookies or inviting no white folks to cookouts. Matter of fact, 2018 should be the year where we don't bring no white folks to cookouts.
That's the Wakandan way.
Absolutely. No, we isolationists with them cookouts.
That's right.
I think to that point, though, it's a matter of we're just not used to black directors being trusted.
Yes.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah. So it can't be understated that, of course, this is the first big budget, predominantly black feature film ever created. So as connoisseurs of this movie, how did it feel to see all this beautiful, unapologetic blackness and graceful aging on screen with a $200 million budget?
It was amazing. It was amazing. It's literally like we have never seen this before. Like this has never happened. Like
Ever.
People keep trying to say, oh, it's just a movie, calm down. No, this has never happened before. This type of movie has never happened before. All the elements that were in this shit, between the budget, the number of black characters, the production, the black ass production team behind it, this has never happened before. You know what I'm saying? So it was beautiful. We saw shit that we've never seen. It was amazing.
It was beautiful, but I got angry as I was leaving the theater because I was thinking to myself, like, why is it 2018 and this is the first time that we're given this? Yep. It made me realize what I've been missing my entire life. Like it made me wish that I had seen this. So like my oldest son is about to turn 10. It made me wish that I had seen it when he was, when I was his age, right? It made me angry, but at the same time I was euphoric. I was very excited. And to the point that you made, Jay, I'm a little irritated with people being contrarians and telling folks how they should react to something. That's really bothersome to me.
That's why
let us, white folks get to dress up and be crazy when Star Wars comes out. Let us live. Let us have our moment instead of trying to tell us how we're supposed to react to something.
Mm-hmm. Well, we were embarrassing them in front of white folks because these contrarians, and it's okay not to be into it. Like I know there are people who are just not really into movies and
that's okay.
That's not as excited, and that's totally fine. But the idea of like checking black folks and policing the way that we enjoy ourselves or the way that we respond to things or whatever, that's a very white supremacist tactic, or to make us feel embarrassed for being excited about black ass things. You know what I'm saying? That's an undervaluing of how we culturally enjoy ourselves. It is culturally black, even though not all black people do this, but it is a culturally black thing to be extra. It's fucking culturally black to do that shit, to be extra, to dress up, to go places, you know what I'm saying? To put on your finest, to do shit that to other people is mundane. We get excited. We like to look our best. We like to have a good time. And in light of all the horrible shit that happens to us on the daily, where going to get a cup of coffee could turn into a life or death situation. If I want to dress up, if I want to buy hair, if I want to sew wigs together, if I want to have an outfit made, if I want to play drums, you know what I'm saying, and be excited in a safe space, we can do that. We can do that. And so even black folks who are saying, oh, well, why y'all doing this? Why y'all doing that? That is a tool. That is a symptom of white supremacy. So just because it's black folks who are challenging black excitement and black joy, that doesn't make it any less white supremacist, you know?
No, you're absolutely right. And I saw the film. Well, I saw the film first, in a screening, but I saw the film on Saturday. Jack and Jill of America in Oklahoma City, they put on this event, and man, they had like African dancers and, face painting and all this other kind of stuff, and caricatures and drums and all this other kind of step teams, whatnot. It had a DJ. It was lit. And then to watch the film in a pretty much an all black kind of movie theater where everyone in the room is black. We all dressed up. It was an amazing experience. And so I'm not here for anyone trying to tell me that, this thing that I've been waiting for, that I didn't know that I was waiting for, has finally come. Right. And I'm supposed to, be stoic about it. Hell no, I'm going to live this up. I'm going to enjoy this because this is the first. Let me enjoy this first.
Right. This is the first. And to you guys' point, it's like, this is what white people feel like every single damn weekend.
All the time.
Or when they turn on Netflix, and it's just like, it must be nice to feel this way. Because I mean, it's like, part of me, as excited as I was about this, part of me felt like, damn, like, Latinx people don't get to feel like this. Indigenous people don't get to feel like this. I'm glad I get to have my moment, but it's just like, damn, like, why doesn't everybody get to have the same experience? Exactly. And, why are we waiting until 2018 to get this massive budget to get, it's bananas. So I'll start with this next question with Law. As African Americans, could you identify with Killmonger's story arc?
Of course I could. I mean, so what Killmonger is doing is, well, I need to give this caveat because his treatment of women is deplorable, and I think that's intentional.
It's
I think
Hotepian. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is definitely Hotepian. I think, yo, you need to save what she just did, and you need to drop that every now and then.
Hotepian.
Oh my God! But so I think that what's happening there is that the filmmakers are intentionally having him do these things to Black women in particular to kind of embody what white supremacy does to Black women. So I think that's part of what's going on in the background. But outside of that, just his centering the African-American experience and saying, why weren't you there to help us? Right? When you had this technology and you had this weaponry, you could have helped us, but instead you were isolationist. I absolutely identified with him. And I think another part of the reason why I also identify with him even more is because Michael B. Jordan is just an amazing performer. And I would argue that he stole most of the scenes when he was face to face with Chadwick Boseman. And I don't know if that was intentional to make him a charismatic figure. I don't know what's going on. Maybe he just knows how to work well with Coogler better. I don't know. But for me, he was like, he sucked the air out of the screen anytime he was kind of oppositionally placed next to Chadwick Boseman. But yeah, I absolutely agreed with much of what he had to say, even if his tactics might have been different than what I would have done.
I think that when you talk about him stealing the scenes, I think that that's a tool of a good villain in a film, because honestly,
Agreed.
Most villains, you're going to get less screen time than the main character anyway. You know what I'm saying? So you have to make every moment that you're on screen count and make it pop. So if you're not if you're not drawing my attention to you and I'm still looking at the superhero, then you're not giving me good villain. Then you're pointless and like your mission is weak. You know what I'm saying? So I think I think we were seeing a good villain. But I also, to your point about his treatment of women and how it mirrors the way that white supremacy treats Black women, it also mirrored the way that white supremacy affects Black men, and Black men in turn treat Black women. You know what I'm saying? So what we saw, and a part of why I called him Hotepian, is that he not only said things that I as a Black American could relate to, right? Because he's speaking from a place of trauma. Not only has he been abandoned by his continental African community and his people, but his family, you know what I'm saying? And he's been out here doing it by himself in all the, we don't know where his mom's was, but in all aspects of the term, he's been out here doing it for himself, much in the ways that Black Americans have been out here doing it for ourselves, figuring it out, building things, picking ourselves up by our bootstraps, as they like to say that we don't do, and making shit work. You know what I'm saying? So he's been doing that, and his mission and his tactics have been to then also mirror the oppressor, right? And so the way in which he knows how to do that, he for whatever, I mean, he doesn't seem like a Kwanzaa type person, but he seems to have missed out on the lessons of Kwanzaa, and he's out here just trying to take power by mirroring white supremacy, right? Which is what a lot of hoteps do, is that they speak this language. So he's saying the words that make sense to me. He's talking about rebuilding his community and unifying and empowering Black folks across the globe. He's saying those things, but his actions are individualistic. They are separatist. They are divisive. They are violent. He's not listening. He doesn't respect the elders. He doesn't respect the women. So he is a hotep ass nigga. You know what I'm saying? So absolutely. Again, while a lot of hoteps, they start off, and this is why so many folks get bought in, because if we all grew up under white supremacy, and so you hear these people saying things that it's like, oh, I can get with that. Wow, I never heard somebody say, let's empower Black folks, let's do that or whatever. But then instead of really taking it back to the way that Black folks do things, with unity, with uplifting one another, with cooperative economics and shit like that, he takes it and is like, I'm gonna do what the white man does. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get it that way. And that's ultimately where he fails. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that the film tells that story. And I definitely do feel that the shit that he was doing to Black women is what a lot of Black men and other Black women, honestly, we are all living in this system of white supremacy and dealing with the trauma of that. And so he's acting still from a place of pain instead of a place of healing.
So basically you're saying that you're not going to make any donations to Dr. Umar's GoFundMe.
Well, I think you knew that about me before you asked me to join. But yes.
Speak your speech. Your speech.
These are the facts.
Your speech.
No, I agree with a lot of what you guys said in that. Like, I see a lot online with people saying Killmonger was right, and I agree he was right, but it was just his methodology was just all fucked up. All fucked up. And it's messed up because it's like you want to root for him because you understand where he's coming from, especially with us being as, African Americans, but it's just like, bruh, like I can't get with you on this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As soon as he started shooting folks yoking up tribe members and all that other stuff, it was just like, I'm still moved by his that last quote he had at the end of the movie. Like, that was just like, when he said that, like, I'd rather be, what was he said? I'd rather be buried in the ocean with my ancestors than live in bondage.
That got to me too, but
no, it got me.
I'm gonna let y'all enjoy that for a hot second. Okay, so that got to me too, but then even in him saying that, we know that there's some aspect of how that's a little bit ridiculous, because he wouldn't be here if not for somebody who stayed on that boat. You know what I'm saying? So we know that his direct line, those are the people that stayed on the boat. And whether they stayed on the boat because they had relatives on the boat, whether they stayed on the boat because they were like, you know what, we're going to see what's on the other side of this and we're going to come out on top regardless. Who knows what the reasons were that those people stayed on the boat? So I feel like there's duality in appreciating and reminding everyone that there are boats that went down. There were folks that burned their boats, you know what I'm saying, in the ocean, and everybody went down. Yeah. There are slaves that jumped off the boat, but there also within that, it is to remember that there are those who decided, you know what, we're going to ride this out and see what the fuck happens, and whatever happens, we're going to make it, we're going to be okay on the other side. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that I was definitely moved and touched by that, but there is still this element of Hotepian bullshit, because had somebody not stayed on that boat, none of us would be here. And part of me is like, maybe that would have been okay. You know what I'm saying? But also here we are. You know what I'm saying? We've built amazing things and contributed so much to the world. You know, as Black American ass people, Black Americans have contributed so much culture to this planet. You know, so it's interesting. I was definitely touched and moved by everything that he said, but I think it's important to remember that while he had a lot of great ideas and was coming from a place of pain, like we have to remember, he's speaking from a place of pain. And he's not the only one there with a problem, because T'Challa, they were on their bullshit too. You know what I'm saying? You got Black Americans across the globe. You got Black folks across the globe suffering, and on the continent, countries around them on the continent suffering. You know, and T'Challa had no interest. Yeah, T'Challa had no interest in helping those folks until the end of the movie. Meanwhile, go ahead. I don't want to. I know you have more. I'm going to let you go ahead, and then I'll get into this other thing.
Well, no, I man, it's so much. Man, we may be here all night. So what really struck me was people have been like comparing T'Challa to like MLK or something like that, and I think that's the wrong
It's
comparison because
absolutely wrong.
T'Challa is an isolationist. He reminds me very much of like, if we're going like the black nationalist tradition, like a Garvey or something like that, like someone who wants to leave and have their own thing. And you know, when you think about all the things that they could have gotten involved in, so let's go back to T'Chaka's reign. So I'm going to assume within this timeline, you got Rwanda that they could have done something about.
Mm-hmm.
You got what happened to African Americans, what continued to happen to African Americans during the Jim Crow years. Like there's all these things they could have gotten involved in.
Apartheid is happening.
South African apartheid is right.
Apartheid, yeah.
And then you have all the things that are happening in Darfur or whatever. All the stuff that's happening that they could have gotten involved in, but yet they chose to remain isolationist. And so that speaks to a real moral deficiency with that country and with the way that they're doing things. And so that is not at all Kingian in any means, right? And it was white folks who said it, and that's why I knew they know what the hell they was talking about.
Well,
so go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that whole comparison of MLK to Malcolm X, even when they do it with the X-Men and start talking about Professor X and Magneto. The whole thing is faulty because it implies that Malcolm X is some sort of maniac.
Some kind of villain,
right? Some kind of villain because and it weakens Dr. King's message, and it kind of props up the kind of whitewashed image of Dr. King that white folks like to have and weaponize him. You know what I'm saying? They like to say, oh, you're not being a good black person because Dr. King had a dream and he was about holding hands. And no, Dr. King was about going to the White House to fucking get our check, to get what the fuck they owe. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Like, absolutely.
He was on that shit. He was on one. He'd been on one. And Malcolm X never committed any violent acts against anybody. He was about self-defense. He was about taking care of yourself, knowledge of self, and all that shit. And so I think
and loving yourself.
Yourself. I feel like it's a very white supremacist tactic to do this Malcolm versus Martin. And I think comparing them, and it's not even about comparing them to comic book characters because there's a lot of, strength and good stories within the comic books. But I think the way that we do this comparison, the way that we say, oh, Malcolm X, he's an evil villain with a good message, it still demonizes him in a way. And the way that we say, oh, Dr. King, he was just a nice guy and wanted to love and hug everybody. That really wasn't the fucking case.
Not at all.
And in these comparisons, we focus so much on Killmonger and we focus so much on T'Challa, when meanwhile Nakia was saying what the plan should have been the whole time. She loved Wakanda and she would go and still help the rest of the world. That's all that she was saying that shit the whole entire movie. And T'Challa had to fucking, have his kingdom nearly taken away from him and their fucking ancestral, whatever that secret fucking indoor garden was, burnt the fuck down in order to finally, by the end of the film, be like, oh, you know what? Let's do it Nakia's way, because she had the keys the whole time.
To be honest, I think we need to retire King and X. Like, let's just retire using them as points of comparison. Let's just stop that.
That's
right.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, let's read some other stuff. Like, let's talk about Stokely Carmichael or something. I mean, let's read something else. But I think it's time for us to retire that whole line of thinking. But yeah, I know we're going to go into Nakia because I have a lot to say about her.
Yeah, there's always two archetypes that we always fall back on. But this question, I'll start with Jay. As a black woman, since we talked about Nakia for a second, how did it feel to see such rich three-dimensional representation in this movie and characters like Nakia, the Dora Milaje, Shuri, the General, Okoye? How did it feel to see that representation?
It was wonderful. It was great to see them fighting and being leaders in battle. It was great to see Okoye as they were the king's right hand. They made decisions. They had ideas. He listened to them. He valued what they had to say. It was wonderful to see them as central love interests. I think that whole thing where Okoye tells Black Panther, she's like, don't freeze. And he goes, and when he sees Nakia, he freezes up. And it's not just, oh, this is someone that I'm lusting after, but he's freezing because he is in awe of her. He's in awe of her intelligence. He's in awe of her beauty. He's in awe of her strength. You know what I'm saying? So I think that their relationship, and also Okoye's relationship with Wakabi, and the way that he, even though he has some fuckboy tendencies, but the way that I felt kind of submitted to her in the end, where she's like, yo, I will kill you for Wakanda. He was like, okay, you got it. But just the way that they were looking at each other, I think we don't see on screen people looking at dark-skinned Black women lovingly or longingly. or you know what I'm saying? Admiring their beauty and their strength and them as delicate points of interest and attraction. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that was powerful, you know?
Yeah. Go ahead, La.
It was. It honestly, I cried at a weird place the first time I saw this. When Okoye jumped on top of that car, and she was just a badass, man. Like, it brought tears to my eyes because we never get to see Black women like that, right?
Yeah.
We never get to see images of Black women just owning it and being the heroes and saving everything. We always see them in supportive roles. And so it was just an amazing experience to see that. And when she jumps down off that top balcony down to the bottom, back to the bottom level, and she's fighting and her dress like flares up. It's an amazing superhuman image, right? Mm-hmm. And it just really, really brought tears to my eyes. However, with all of the beautiful stuff that was happening, it's not lost on me that they're still operating within a patriarchal system, right? That they're still serving a male king. That's why I was so enthusiastic about Shuri, because her character was, she was to me, she was the breakout star. Like, she was unbelievable. She was amazing. Letitia Wright was as playing Shuri. And so if you know the Black Panther story and you know what happens with her later on, it really got me excited, because if they were to follow that trajectory of that character, and can I spoil what happens in the comic book?
Yeah. If they don't read the comic book, go ahead and tell them.
Okay, so in the comic book, she later on becomes Black Panther. And so if they were to follow the story arc of the comic books, that would be an amazing turn of events, because now you're opening the door to what happens when a patriarchal society becomes a matriarchal society? What happens when a woman takes on that mantle? What's the role of the Dora Milaje now because of that? That's just amazing things to kind of think about. And I think that Letitia Wright is the kind of actress who can handle that kind of responsibility.
Also, I wonder, when we talk about as a womanist or Black ass feminist or whatever, when we talk about patriarchal societies, like, just because you have a king doesn't mean the society is patriarchal. You know what I'm saying? So I think that the Wakanda that is presented to us in this film, to me, it didn't. The only thing that felt patriarchal about it to me is that the whole movie, Nakia is like, hey, this is what we need to do, or these are the ways, and you can change that. And nobody is really listening to Nakia. You know what I'm saying? So that's what kind of felt patriarchal to me.
That's how I read it.
Right. But aside from that, he is listening to Okoye, who is his right hand woman. You know what I'm saying? It's his right hand. The council, the Wakandan High Council. There were two. There was an elder woman there who was not a grandma. She was the leader of a tribe. You know what I'm saying? There were two women in that high council. Okoye is in there. Ramonda is in there. T'Challa's mom is there. So it didn't feel to me that it was so patriarchal because of the way that he was in many ways listening to women and holding counsel with women. But again, he absolutely was ignoring everything Nakia said the whole movie. But that I don't know if that's just a man thing, or like the patriarchy type shit. You know what I'm saying? Because the society didn't necessarily feel like a patriarchal society in the film, at least.
It's man shit.
Yeah.
It's probably man shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it definitely is.
Well, it definitely is. I guess what I'm saying is, can you separate man shit from the patriarchy? You know what I'm saying?
But of course, I'm going to defer to you on this one. But I do think that part of the reason why men do the kind of things that we do is because of the patriarchy. It really felt patriarchal to me. But of course, I'm going to defer to you on this one.
I think it's a lot like racism and prejudice, right? You can't have prejudice without racism, but they're mutually exclusive. Right. So I mean, I think there's man shit and there's patriarchy, but they're not necessarily synonymous. Rather,
right? Like I guess his treatment of Nakia was a symptom of the patriarchy, but I don't think they were necessarily living in a patriarchal society, at least his kingdom. You know what I'm saying? Because when you go up to the Jabari tribe in the mountains, you see M'Baku there, and it's all men. So I don't know what was going on up there. You know what I mean? But the Wakandan High Council, there was a mixture of men and women, alike.
Fair enough.
All right, now Jay, you've spoken at length about your struggles coming up as a Black nerd within, predominantly male spaces. What impact do you think these characters will have on young Black girls in similar situations growing up today?
Yo, Shuri out here with the science in the lab. I thought that was super cool.
Yes.
And I thought that it was nice that they let her be, I think they talk about her being a teenager, and she was very, though intelligent and like smart and on top of shit and witty, she was still very like childlike and playful.
Yeah.
And so I think it's great for young girls to be able to see a girl like that in a position of power, authority, intelligence. People listened to what she had to say. She had ideas. She still made jokes. She was still cute. You know what I'm saying? She was still cool. She was still having fun. So I think that there is power in that. And I think also, kind of, you had a lot of like puritanical ass nerds who are like, oh, you didn't know anything about Black Panther before this movie came out. And now you're acting like you're all excited about a comic book character and blah, all this fucking like butthurt nerd pain shit or whatever that was going on. And I think when you
butthurt nerd pain.
And I think when you center Black characters, sometimes there are times when, back in the day, I would look at certain nerd spaces and certain shit and I'd be like, you know what? I'm not even interested in this shit because it's clear that nobody wants me here and I got better stuff to do. You know what I'm saying? So I think when you center Black characters, there are Black folks that are interested in certain aspects of nerd culture that just don't bother because it's like, this doesn't look like it's a space for me. You know what I'm saying? And why do I want to be somewhere where I'm not wanted? So it's not that the interest isn't there, but sometimes you go into a space and it's like, if you don't want me here, I'm not going to be here. So I think it's nice that this comic book interest, that you have this centered, Black cast, Black characters, Black superhero, Black women. And so people or kids who would otherwise just look at it, watch the movie once and never return to the concepts are like, yo, this is something that I could get into. Like, people are going to buy the comics now. People who weren't buying comics are going to buy comics now. You know what I'm saying? It was a little girl in that Black Panther toy commercial. It's a little girl in that. And she's not a tiny little girl. She's like a preteen or some shit. It's going to be preteen girls out there. We were already borrowing Nerf guns, or sometimes somebody would buy us a Nerf gun, but we're centered in the commercial. Like, oh shit, they're marketing this to me. That means something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Law, keeping in the spirit of representation, I know you have a son. Mm-hmm. And how do you feel having Black Panther? We grew up we had like Luke Cage, but I don't think we necessarily resonated with Luke Cage because between his characterization, we had people like Night Thrasher, we had people like Rage. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had Sync from the X-Men. Like, we had some characters in there, but we've never had like a predominant big name Black character like Black Panther is now growing up, for kids to look up to. What kind of representation do you think, or what kind of impact do you think he'll have on children today?
I think it'll have a huge impact. I remember when the first Michael Keaton Batman came out, directed by Tim Burton. I remember going to the movie theater. We had no money, so we had to wait till it hit the dollar movie theater. But I remember going to the movie theater and seeing a film starring a figure that I knew from reading comic books. And I remember how impactful that was for me. But that was a white dude, right? So now my son, who's 10, is going to a film, and I've written about this for Very Smart Brothers, like for him to grow up in a world where the characters that he's trying to embody and the characters that he, is looking up to, those are characters who look like him and come from similar backgrounds, although, T'Challa is a king, but, come from similar backgrounds and look like him. Like, that's an amazing experience. And now you have, like people like Rodney Barnes, who's writing the Falcon comic that I'm really, really digging right now. Like, that's just an amazing kind of thing to watch him grow up embodying people who look like him. And now he's growing out dreads because he liked the way that that Michael B. Jordan's hair looked in the movie. Like, it's an amazing experience for him, for me to watch him kind of go through this metamorphosis of growing up, because for a very long time he tried to be like these white characters because it was the Captain America movie and it was, Spider-Man or whatever. But now he's kind of transitioned and now he's all about the Black characters. And, he said to me directly, yo, I don't want to be no white person. I want to be Black. And for him to have, a big budget film like this that is genuinely good, but also represents him, that's just an amazing, amazing thing for me as a father to watch.
And genuinely Black. You know what I'm saying? Not pandering or anything like that.
Yeah, no, man, it's authentically Black.
So we'll start with Jay on this question, but Do you feel like T'Challa made the right decision deciding to share Wakanda's resources with the rest of the world at the end of the movie?
No,
I'm glad you asked her first.
no.
I'm glad you asked her.
No, I don't.
Because I'm not Hotepian.
I'm not a
Hotepian.
Hotep. I'm not Hotepian. No, I don't think so. I think that I appreciated him doing what Nakia suggested that they do and like, build that center, that knowledge center or whatever in Oakland. And I think that was good. I wasn't really feeling that, let's share this shit with the people. I think he maybe took that shit a little too far. Like this sounds like a bad idea.
Doing too much.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. If they had like a Black United Nations,
yeah,
where only Black folks could show up, then that's fine. And I noticed the dig at Donald Trump with the we build bridges, not barriers. I mean, that's what's up. I hear you. But why are we announcing it to a mostly white group of people?
Yeah.
That's where I think the problem is, right? And I think that Coogler was intentional on pointing out the fact that there's a lot of white folks in that room. And so I think that that's going to be the problem moving forward, is that, I would not be surprised if the villain next film is someone who wants to colonize Wakanda and they got to fight to keep the white folks out, because I would not have made it. Now, again, if you could do like a Black, State of the Union or something like that and get Cornel West and Michael Eric Dyson and, Louis Farrakhan there and you only talk to them, then okay, I think that's okay. But you got, everybody, you got Trump. Now you got, Ralph Nader, you got all these folks down.
Yeah.
And it's just,
I'm hoping in my heart that was just like an informational meeting, like we just about to like test the waters out type of thing, because that to me seemed like an immediate, this is a bad fucking idea. But maybe they were just telling everybody, hey, we about to talk to more Black people, just so you know. And then maybe now they're gonna go and have the meeting where they only talk to other Black folks. Because you put your toe in. Don't be like just talking to all these white folks. You survived this long without talking to them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he jumped feet first into the white pool, all the way in.
Yeah, but again, hopefully it's just an informational.
They specifically made it a point to point out the fact that in other countries there was all this war, all this carnage, and then you're going to give them vibranium? Like, that makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. So yeah, I agree. I think this is a terrible fucking idea. Real quick, what were some of your favorite scenes?
That whole everything that had to do with M'Baku, the actor, what's his name? Winston Duke, I think his name is.
Winston Duke.
Yeah, every scene that he was in was fucking delicious. He was amazing.
Great, yeah.
And just like to talk again about like what happens when Black people have their hands in something that has to do with Black people, I felt like the camera showed him so much love, and his character, what we did see and know of him, was so well written and like well developed, even though he didn't have that many lines, but he just got so much love that we understood where he was coming from. And as an audience, we want to see him act in other things. And that's an opportunity that I think a lot of supporting role like Black actors don't get that kind of love. Like, does anybody care about what is his name in Captain America? War Machine? I don't care about him. That's his name, right?
Falcon.
I don't want to see a movie with that guy. I don't care. They don't ever give him enough to make me give a shit about anything that he's doing, because when there are white folks in the room, the camera finds its way back to them, the script finds its way back to them. Even if that white person is just a supporting role, they still develop that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like everything that M'Baku did and said, there was love shown to that character, and it allowed us to fall in love with him as an actor and as, M'Baku the character. So yeah, I loved all of that, and I would like to have his babies. That's just a side note, and I feel like
do what you got to do.
I don't know if y'all have been watching, but Black women all over are like falling in love with that guy.
It's real. The thirst is real out there. The thirst is real.
Yeah, and well deserved. Yeah, that is well deserved.
I agree.
Yes.
Interestingly, one of my favorite scenes is, it's almost like a throwaway scene, although I think Ryan Coogler understood what he was doing, because he bookends the film with the way that he shoots it. When the film begins in Oakland, I should say. So when the film kind of opens in Oakland, he shoots a basketball scene where the kids are throwing the ball back and forth, but it's a single shot and the camera is swooping, and it's almost like Ryan Coogler, in the same way that Spike Lee did at the beginning of Malcolm X, Ryan Coogler is establishing this is about to be epic. Like, what you're about to watch is going to be visually dazzling. And he ends the film with a very similar kind of shot of kids playing basketball before, T'Challa shows up. And he shoots it essentially the same way, featuring the little boy from Moonlight.
Yeah, Alex Hibbert.
Yeah, Alex. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's the one with the braids. Am I right? Who asks, who are you? I think that's him.
Yes.
So, and I'm wondering if they're setting him up to do something, in later films. But nevertheless, like, that was just an amazing, like, it just established for me, this film is going to be, unlike any other Marvel film that you've seen, because Ryan Coogler is just such a talented filmmaker. I mean, watching all of his films, you can see his development, like the way that he uses the camera is so interesting. And the way that he kind of shoots things that could be mundane, because you could have cut that and it made it much easier. But him making the intentional, making the decision rather to allow the camera to follow the ball around in an uncut fashion, that just let me know, it established the stakes of what's going on as far as the filmmaking is concerned. And I loved it. Right. I absolutely loved that.
Well,
scene.
That, and even aside from it being like a, camera type of thing or whatever, like just the basketball being a symbolic representation of like Black American type shit. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that
and the hoop that they're using, right. That was there years later, letting you know that the community has not been developed in any meaningful way.
So I think that established like those kind of like diasporic connections, and kind of that what's happening here in Black America is relevant, is important. And even at the end, when that little boy who we all fucking love, Alex Hibbert, is like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? Right, like that, right. I fell apart. I was like, yo, because really, that's, to me, it was a symbolic representation of when Obama was elected, and little kids are like, yo, who are you? You're looking at a Black man like, yo, I've never seen a Black person like you before. Who are you? You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So, and when our children and my nieces and nephews are going to see Black Panther, it's like, yo, who are you? Who are you? What is this thing that you're doing that I've never seen anyone do before? You know what I'm saying? So it was, and that kind of recurring theme in the film of like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? When Killmonger gets to Wakanda and they're like, well, we're not going to ask you who you are. Da, da, da. And finally the council is like, no, who are you? And he's like, this is who I am. This kind of like affirming these diasporical connections. Yes.
The blackest words ever spoken in a Marvel film.
Yes.
I was that nigga said it with his chest. When he said his name, he said that shit with his chest.
At any moment, I was expecting him to be like, Europe. Like I was expecting some like, some uptown shit. But anyway, I really did appreciate that ending scene, that who are you shit, and the connections that they made throughout the diaspora, and just kind of, I felt like it made us all feel like we had a stake in this, and that our unity was important, and that our unity was at stake and at the center of what was happening in the story.
No, absolutely. So, absolutely.
On that note, what do each of you expect to see in the sequel?
Okay, I'll tell you what, I didn't get enough of Michael B. Jordan, honestly. I would like to see more of him, and so I'm wondering, because the Mandarin, the Mandarin in MCU is, he's whack. But I'm wondering if there's maybe like an altar of resurrection. Like I'm hoping, because I would love to see more Killmonger. But I do think that what's probably going to happen is you're probably going to get a white villain next time. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't get a white villain or something like that. But I just want them to kind of expand the world more. Go ahead, what are you going to say?
You would think that they would use a white character to move forward, as a plot device for a Black story. That happens?
I don't want it.
I wouldn't be. I'm not saying I want it. I'm saying that's what I think is probably going to happen.
Right. I think that they could do. This is what I would love to see, but I don't know that that's going to happen. Because we've already got so much. I would love to see them explore M'Baku as like the actual villain. You know what I'm saying? And I really appreciated not having to learn white people's stories and not having to fight with white people. I just want to be here in Wakanda, figuring out our shit, fighting and doing whatever. Like I don't need whatever happens in, what is this, Infinity War that's about to come out? Whatever happens in that, I'm cool. But if you hit me off with another Black Panther movie, I want to stay on Wakanda. I want to go to Harlem. I want to go to Atlanta. I don't want to fucking play with you other motherfuckers. I have to play with you every fucking movie. I don't want to do that. Let's explore fucking M'Baku. Let's just explore the villains like on Wakanda.
M'Baku in this film showed himself to be a person who really, really respected tradition.
Right.
He respected tradition. And even in that scene where they're raising T'Challa back from the dead, he can, he chants with
Well,
them.
his character. So I believe that his character in the comic books is one that wants to revert things back to a more rural time. So I think that his character innately respects all of that shit. You know what I'm saying?
He does.
Right. So
in fact, he does as much. I mean, because he comments upon the fact that Shuri is not respecting tradition, and so he would be an interesting character, and he would be someone who would be kind of in the tradition of a Killmonger, Hotepish kind of figure.
Right.
So I would be interested, and also I just know that the Omega Sci-Fi everyone would love if M'Baku were to be a central figure in the next film. But yeah, no, I think that would be interesting. But I'm telling you, I would not be surprised if they, if they didn't have a white villain. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it does not happen. I don't want it either. But I think that it might be on the horizon, because it just seems like with him doing that announcement, it could go one of two ways, and we could get both. It could be a both and situation. M'Baku's not going to like that. Right. He's not going to like the fact that T'Challa opened it up to the world. And then, you also have, someone who's white coming in saying, I want some of that. So we'll see.
I'm down with it.
I would much rather have the former than the latter.
Yeah, they got to die early like the Claw did. If he don't die, whoever the white person is, if they don't die early in the movie, then just don't waste my time. That's all I'm saying.
She said you got to the end of the first act to get the fuck off my screen.
Get out of here, yo. Get out.
Are there any other final thoughts either of you have about this movie?
I loved it, and I look forward. I hope that this opens the door to see more Black folks developed on camera. I hope that this
with bigger budgets.
Yeah, with bigger budgets. I hope that this reduces the tendency to fucking center white people in Black stories. You know what I'm saying? People love making up a fake ass white character, you know what I'm saying, for no reason to center. I love it. And I love that in this film, we didn't talk about it, but just the way that they silence white folks. Like, ain't nobody talking to you. You know what I'm saying? So I would like more of that.
Yeah, the homie Damon wrote an amazing piece today talking about we should be barking at white folks.
Yes, I didn't get to read that, but when I read the title, I was like, y'all late. Y'all late. Bark at him, bark at him, bark at him.
Yeah, I can't do that with what I do, but still, yeah, I respect.
I'm gonna start on Tuesday. I'm gonna start as soon as we back to work. Ooh.
Work on it. You gotta say it with your chest. I mean, ultimately, I love the film. I absolutely love the film. It's about time that we get this, and I love the way that this film, it does what it needs to do as a Marvel film, but it's allowed to explore so much about contemporary Black identity, about the subtle tensions and sometimes not so subtle tensions between African Americans and, first and second generation, African people here in America. I love that it's allowed to kind of breathe, that each character is allowed to be a fully fleshed out character, even if they don't have that much screen time. It really, really spoke deeply to me, the who are you part, as Jay said recently, just the fact that no one believes that Black folks can do this, and that they're out there doing it, and they're doing it well. And it's just kind of, it's an amazing time to be alive right now. And I'm so excited about what the future holds, because with this film making as much money as it did, I think it's like, what, 238 million in a 4-day time span? That's nuts. That is nuts. And that lets you know the power of representation. And with Get Out last year doing so well, and then Girls Trip last year doing so well, I hope that this opens the door for more Black creators to get some freedom, although I am and will always be suspicious of that, because we've had Black films that did well and that did not really open too many doors. But I'm just excited. I'm excited about the film, and I'm happy that the film was good. Like, I cannot say that enough. I'm just happy that the film was good, because this could have been a disaster.
I was more than ready to pretend. Bad. I'm glad I did not have to pretend.
Yeah, absolutely. Because look,
I would have came right on this film, been like, it was wonderful.
If this film had been bad, I'd have been on here like saying, it was good. It was a movie and it was acting, but it's genuinely good. Yeah. Like, it is the best Marvel film. It just is. Right? It's objectively good. Objectively
hands
good.
Down.
And I'm so excited about that.
And to your point earlier about it being successful, I'm grateful not only that a movie that's so fucking good did so well, but the fact that, people say that, like, Black movies don't sell. And it's dope that so many white people saw this movie because, one, it gives them a strong representation of who we are as people, so that when they go back to their communities, they don't, be on this, rap or TV or, this other bullshit that they see, that they go back and do that. But also it shows other ethnicities and other, cultures, like, y'all can support our shit too. Just because it's black characters doesn't mean that y'all can't fuck with it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's perfectly fine. Just like we partake in y'all culture, it's perfectly fine for y'all to support us too. The onus shouldn't always rely on us to make a black film successful, because damn sure all these other Marvel movies weren't just watched by white people. You know what I'm saying? So to that point, thank each of y'all for coming on. And where can people find you in these internet streets?
Oh,
we'll start with you, Jay.
Okay, cool. Thanks for having me. You can find me on Tea with Queen and Jay podcast. We are everywhere your favorite podcasts are played: SoundCloud, iTunes, all those good places, Apple Podcasts, excuse me. You can find us on Twitter at Tea with QJ. You can find me at Janicia F, JANICIAF, and that's where we're at, yo. Check us out.
I had to look up my Twitter account because I forgot what my name was. You can find me on Twitter at law_rights. Holla at your boy.
How the hell you forget law_rights?
Man, look, man, it's been a long day, bro. All right, it's been a long day, man.
Nigga said that damn underscore get me every time.
It really does. Like, I almost said law.rights, and I was law_rights.
So, yeah, it is dot on Instagram.
On Instagram is law.rights.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. So, yeah, thank y'all for listening. If you haven't subscribed to our show already, please do so now on Apple Podcasts, tune in, wherever the hell it is you listen to shows. And thank y'all for listening to our review. Peace out.
Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever.